Okay. Hello. It's me, Jesse again. I'm not going to do a Bible study on this. I have been concerned. No, I'm not coughing because of that illness. I've been concerned about what's going on. It's real. You know you're real. And I know I'm real. And we're going to have to, deal with what's going on because there's no stopping it. What's the it that I'm talking about? The destruction of the United States of America. The government sending the military out to control all of us. The participation of your local police, sheriff, state police, federal police. Remember that Obama wanted a federal police system. And the only reason for that is to, control people. It's been obvious to me for a long time that this is the end. This is what they've always planned. This is what they've always wanted. And you and I are having to, you know, live through this time. How should we live? Well, more anger isn't needed. I know there's people milking the Black Lives Matter. Um, it's a political movement. It has nothing to do with justice or decency towards humanity. And all people should be treated with decency. They should have their personhood respected. Even the worst among us. That may be a difficult concept, but even the worst among us deserve to be treated as human beings. And the reason for that is because of God. It's not because of them. Is do we really are we really people who um, know God, believe in God, understand who God is, believe in salvation through Christ, sanctification through the Holy Spirit, teaching us the Bible, helping us be better people, not only for ourselves, for our family members, our neighbors. And if we do believe in that, then we have to meet this challenge with dignity and grace. We have to fight the good fight with dignity and grace. Because if their side is boiling with emotions and foolish passion, and then we go down the right same road, the only thing that can happen is that we destroy each other. They're not going to be clear thinking, reasoning individuals who understand what they're doing. They're destroying freedom, liberty, and independence. If you want to be a sinner, you can't. In America, so far in America, there are groups of our men who get into a truck and go hunt down Christians. Who put people on their knees and shoot them in the head or cut their heads off because they don't. The person that they're victimizing doesn't believe what they believe. though we see the attack on traditional family values, we see the attack on Christianity. But how do we survive? We have to stay calm, peaceful, men and women of God, men and women of Jesus Christ. And it is there, standing right in front of us, the collapse and chaos of America, the deliberate collapse and chaos of America. I mean, how do you explain Obama and the Congress, Democrat and Republican alike, doubling the national debt, attacking churches for suppose there's defense of homosexuality, their defense of abortion, their deformed defense of atheists? All those people can do what they want, but that doesn't mean that they have the right to destroy the American church, to attack Christians. If you want to be deeply involved in your sin, you're welcome to it. I have no problem with it. It's your sin. If you ask me my opinion, all I'm going to do is read the Bible to you, because an understanding that even just because you do not know how much danger you're in doesn't mean that you're not in danger. And I'm talking about the people who are living the crazy life with drugs, life with alcohol, life with fornication. And there's no innocent person among us. Excuse me. You seen any of my videos, you know that the more I talk, the more I cough. I don't know why. But I'm concerned, one, for myself. See, I live in El Paso, Texas, which is the border town with a city in Mexico. And I see a lot of the petty, childish immaturity of people who want to believe that they have rights in this country because of how they view history. Two specifics would be the situation with Texas, which they believe the Americans took from Mexico, and then Arizona, California, all those other territories, which Mexico signed over after the Mexican-American War. That's an important point. After the Mexican-American War, which the United States of America won, and to the victor go the spoils. And I would rather see what we know as the United States of America under the hands and control of Americans than the people of Mexico. Mexico is worse than described. I mean, literally, it's a free-for-all. Anybody can do anything they want. It's the powerful, the well-armed. Those are the people who are in charge. There is no law and order. It's foolishness to elect a president and to elect their congressional representatives, however the makeup of that Congress is, because the country is completely, it's given over to evil. It's given over to sin. You do have the serious criminals, but a large majority of the people of Mexico adopted the attitude that because everybody else is corrupt, I can do what I want. And that basically translates into, for a person in Mexico, basically translates into, I don't have to pay my property taxes. I don't have to pay sales taxes. I don't have to legally register my vehicle. It's corruption at all levels. You don't need to go to let's say in Texas you go to the Texas Department of Public Safety for your driver's license. You don't have to go to the equivalent of that in Mexico. You just find somebody who works in that office and you pay them money and they bring your driver's license. Same for your vehicle registration. You don't have to go to the office in Mexico that registers vehicle. You just got to find somebody that works in that office. And it's not hard. You're not going to suffer greatly looking for it. And I'm not trashing Mexico. I'm just documenting the reality of it. And it's important in the issue of United States of America because, you know, immigration politics have destroyed this country. And I'm going to say some things that is going to upset people, but it's the truth. We're the problem. Even though we're in the freest country where you can learn anything, we have serious problems with our thought processes. And we are here today because we let them, the corporate slaves in the American Congress, the people who respond to that certain group of rich people, we let them do their foolishness. I mean, America elected Obama twice, Clinton twice. You couldn't see the people who voted for this person, who the majority who elected this person as president couldn't see that these are not people who should be entrusted with the great country that was the United States of America. I'm not trashing America, but America doesn't exist. The country where you're free to learn, to apply for jobs, to hustle, to have ambition, to succeed. That's not this country anymore. The country with evil represented you know in everything that we see wrong with this country. That's the country that is. The country of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Planned Parenthood and so many and people who would lend themselves. There's John MacArthur did an excellent sermon on who the demonstrators and protesters are. They're the people who are the drugs and the alcohol and the fornication, very childish, petty, immature, don't really have um, a mission. They're not really fighting for anything. Somebody has offered them money to be destructive, and in order to have access to their drugs and their alcohol and going to the clubs looking for someone to hook up with, they took that money and they protested in very violent manners. This is subversive. This is right out of the how to destroy America by communists. This isn't Black Lives Matter. This isn't upset people. I'm a person who pays a lot of attention. I have been very concerned about the human rights violations of members of law enforcement in El Paso, Texas, across the board, municipal cops, county cops, state cops. A lot happens, and if you don't live here, you don't know what goes on here. You don't know that members of Mexican drug cartels are working as city police, county sheriff, state cops. Because that's the plan. How do you get your business, you know, profitable? Is you have to get your people into government. You gotta get your people into border patrol. You gotta get your people into ICE. And once you get them in there, then they can help you move your merchandise around. And I guess it is true. If Americans didn't need to dope themselves up, then the Mexican drug cartels wouldn't exist. The number one purchaser of illegal drugs, mind altering drugs, are Americans. I guess that's one of those, things of freedom. You're free to choose what's right, but you're also free to choose what's wrong. And how people live their lives isn't my problem as long as they keep it to themselves. And the reality is that when we look at the issue of homelessness and when we look at the issue of mental health and people living on the streets, we have to be honest about the fact that a lot of those people burn their brain out on drugs. And we really are surrounded. We're surrounded by, homeless with mental health issues. We're surrounded by criminals at all levels. We're surrounded by police that hate us and want to kill us. If you have a different experience, good for you. Trust me, being assaulted by the cops is nothing pleasurable. Nothing I would wish on my worst enemy. So that's good that you have never been violated, victimized by law enforcement. Um, but it's happened to a lot of people. I was doing a lot of math. I was doing a little bit of math yesterday. If one police officer interacts with 10 people on a daily basis, and you have a police department of 1,500 police officers, that means together they interact with 15,000 people a day. And the manner in which they interact with people contributes to how people have the opinions that people have of them. I can tell you that in El Paso, Texas, they're very rude, very obnoxious. Just a serious bad attitude. But it's all, and that translates into human rights violations. That translates into people being assaulted, punched, kicked. Yes, people have been killed. An individual with his hands handcuffed behind his back was shot in the custody of police at the county jail, semi-conscious, with his pants around his knees. You can see the video. If you look for it on YouTube, you can see the video. You can also find the video of the police officer who shot a person who was bleeding to death on the floor. And no circumstance. So how do we go forward? What do? We can't lose our mind. I guess that's the thing. We cannot lose our mind. We can't lose our holiness. As hard as that is, in this crazy world, we just cannot become them. We can't lose our joy, our love, patriotism. But when you're talking about patriotism, what is it you're fighting for? What is it you're fighting for? American values as far as freedom, liberty, and independence to me are very important. That the person is in charge is very important. That consent of the governed is very important. That those politicians should be listening to us and not running some sinister agenda for the corporations who own them. Not all rich people, not all companies are bad. There are some good people who own major corporations, who give a lot of money to charities, who aren't part of what we would call the Illuminati agenda. And if everything's going to fall apart, we have to stay godly, but we also have to, plan and act. Recognize that this industrial society that we've all become comfortable with when we can drive to the Walmart and buy our groceries isn't going to exist, and it's probably not going to exist for that much longer. It can't. Every vehicle I own, if I keep driving it and never put gas in it, eventually they're going to stop. And that's America right now. When you don't have people working, purchasing, the money's not in circulation. Companies without money have to close their doors, big or small. Governments without money have to close their doors, big or small. America was in a national debt crisis, and adding 10 trillion to the national debt, regardless of the reason for it, that's it. It's a death knell. Is you, and that's not putting gasoline in the car. Because it doesn't exist. It isn't real. It is not based on commerce, on the free market. It's just government printing money. That's what happened in Mexico. When you live in the border, you get to see these things. What used to be called the Mexican peso devaluation, that's what happened to them. Currency inflation. And when you have a system so corrupt that people pay their taxes, but that money it goes somewhere. It's not going to the military, it's not going to the Department of Education or Department of Transportation. It isn't making our lives better. These are our services. These are services we are purchasing for ourselves. Okay, but you can't let it get to you. You can't let it turn you into a rage machine. We have to be people of love, of peace, not of acceptance, not of letting them victimize us. I don't believe in being a victim. I believe in self-defense. But if that is what's coming, and we don't prepare spiritually, all things start with God. Mentally, what thoughts are we going to have during this challenge? Are we going to be negative, or are we going to be positive? And then emotional, are we going to be scared, frightened, too frightened to act? We're going to panic. We need to start preparing. We don't need to start preparing for the end, for when the end comes. The end has come. We were driving down the road, we heard a large explosion. All of a sudden, there's smoke and fire everywhere. The end has come. This is the end of the United States of America. Good people should talk to good people. Not only do we prepare ourselves spiritually, mentally, organize our thoughts, emotionally. If we have a plan of action, if we know we can count on each other, we're not going to be able to count on a lot of people. Because there really are people who have been worked up with this fever of believing that America and white people in America are the problem. You have productive people in a society. If it was not for the productive people in a society, you wouldn't have anything. People with bad attitude that always fight with employers, who are always doing drugs, who are always fornicating, who are always creating children they can't afford, who are mean to these children, who give psychological problems to their children, to where they cannot function, they cannot hold a job, they end up being homeless, they end up resorting to drugs, medicating their pain with sexual activity. Those people don't hold up a society. People with traditional family values, with religious values, with God, with the love of God, the peace of God, You know, they work hard in whatever industry they are involved in, whatever they're doing. These productive members of society work hard, and sometimes they build a major corporation, and they keep their humanity and they help people. All of that is possible because of American values of freedom, liberty, and independence. It's not possible because government, because of welfare. Very very few innovations come out of welfare, the welfare society, the food stamp society, the government housing society. I'm not opposed to children getting health care. I'm not opposed to it at all. But it's so mismanaged. You and I could have done a whole lot better with $25 trillion as far as making sure that children have a home to live in, children have enough to eat, children have health care, and children have psychological services to undo what what people have done to them. So the only thing I want to say is we have to accept the reality that it's over. That little society that we thought was always going to be there and that we like, and there's no reason not to like it. There's no reason not to like a society that has a convenience store that you can walk to, treat yourself with an ice cream after a hard week's work, banks and hospitals and universities. There's no reason to say that's a bad society. But today, right now, the evil spirit that's permeating the majority of people, a lot of people, are enraged, are hateful, think they're correct. They think because they see somebody, oh, now they know everything about the person. The mere fact that they're white, they're racist, and they've been stealing from the poor. That's the society we live in now. You can look at a person, and in a second, just by seeing the skin color, you know everything about that person. And if they're not your kind of brown, then that person is the worst human being that has ever lived. What We're not going to get much out of a society with people running around with that kind of stupid, and they should be smart enough. I was born in Mexico, but ironically, I look white, Caucasian white. My mom was 100% good, decent human being. My mother, 100% Mexican. The the man was not good, but 100% Mexican. And I look Caucasian. Don't know why, but when I'm doing what I'm doing in El Paso and getting the looks, I just gotta look away. It's coming from an ignorant point of view. If you are judging somebody, you literally are telling the person you're an ignorant person. I mean, if you read the Bible, we're supposed to respect all people made in the image of God. Um, their sin problem is God's problem. It isn't my problem. The only time I need to worry about somebody around me is when it's obvious to me they have an intent on harming me. That's when I need to worry about my neighbors. Other than that, and they're very obnoxious and rude. Um, the Mexicans in El Paso, Texas have become very obnoxious and rude in their hate for everything American, everything white. I don't hate Mexico. I don't hate the people of Mexico. I hope everybody finds God. I hope everybody comes to believe Christ is the Son of God and that we have to invite him into our lives. So we have to stay sane. We have to stay spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy. And we need to start talking to each other in realistic terms, understanding it has fallen. America has fallen. And now we need to prepare because we're still here. And it's up to us um, to set the conditions that we'll live in during this chaos. I guess if you want to call it martial law, you can, or just downright communistic imprisonment of anybody who's Christian, anybody who believes in freedom, liberty, and independence, anybody who believes that they are in charge of their government. Government isn't in charge of us. Government isn't in charge of you. We are supposed to be in charge of government. They are supposed to take their marching orders from us. We're not supposed to take our marching orders from them. And there's also the rule of common decency, common sense. You should know that you don't do this because you're going to upset the balance of society, and you're also going to be responsible for harsh impact on individual life, like starvation. Where do you get treatment for cancer in a society that's fallen, that's collapsed, that's being run by the military, and those people in Congress who believe that they don't see? I hear people say things and say, no, you gotta stop. You need to start saying they're corporate slaves. They're working for the rich people who want this agenda, who want to imprison humanity, who consider the human race an insect that needs to be squashed so they can have their little. See, in a Christian society, in a truly Christian godly society, you can't have strippers, you can't have prostitutes, because they won't lend themselves. People who have God in their hearts, Jesus Christ, won't lend themselves to selling drugs. And they want that stuff. And the only way they can have that, the only way they can kidnap children, is to control the system. The only way they can kidnap children for their orgies and their human sacrifices is when they're completely in charge. And they want to party, and they want to party hard. And if there are people around who would, you know, talk about the crimes of people like Epstein, then they can't have what they want. They can't eat human flesh. They can't drink human blood. As long as we're around. But they get rid of us, and they can go crazy with their blood orgies. And they exist, and that's what they want. This is why you see it isn't the liberal agenda. It isn't the democratic agenda. It isn't the Democrats' fairer, more just system where you're helping, you know, the people who don't have anything. They create unemployment. They create high school dropouts. They take spirit away from people. They give people the negative attitude. They take people's confidence away with their policies. Democratic policy is just one negative after another. It's the idea that life sucks, nothing works, why bother? It's better to have government take care of you. They promote those ideas, and that leads to teenage pregnancy, gang involvement, irresponsible parents, you know, serious psychological distress that turns people into individuals who can no longer function, or robs a society of financial resources necessary for those people who honestly didn't do anything other than being born, and it's not their fault that they have anxiety, it's not their fault they have depression or anything else. It's not their fault they have post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. It's not their fault. It's their own body attacking them. It's the chemistry in the brain. But we're the problem. I'm sorry, we're the problem. We've seen what they have been doing, and we have failed to stop them. We have failed to put it on the line. The majority is good and decent, and the majority knows what they're doing, and the majority has been seeing them doing what they've been doing and electing people like Obama. We did it. Now the only thing that's left, and if you don't like it, if you want to get angry, if you want to get upset, you want to say, no, I did it. It could only have happened if good and decent people weren't paying attention and were not involved, were not part of the process. That's the only way it could have been. And if you say you were you really paying attention? If you say you were paying attention, were you really paying attention? Did you have the American spirit in you? Did you have the godly spirit in you? Did you have the spirit of freedom, liberty, and independence of the person that's in charge, not government, not the school district? If you want to send your kid with the Bible to a public school, you should be able to, and you shouldn't be harassed by anybody. If someone in the public school can wear a t-shirt that says proud and queer, then somebody can wear a t-shirt that says proud and Christian. But they took over society, but they took it over because we let them take it over. We let them put the judges in place where there's no sound legal reason for what they're doing. But this isn't to upset anybody, it's to give the message that it has happened. America has fallen, and now we have to plan to protect ourselves, our families, our friends. In this insanity, there's still people who think the same thing, who love God, who love the American Constitution, who still know what America stood for. And the good fight has to be fought with dignity and grace, not with rage and anger, not with hate.